I was in the middle of breaking down a hog at the butcher shop when a group of people, dressed like they just stepped out of charity gala, stopped in front of my counter. One of the middle-aged women, dripping in pearls, looked me up and down a few times before asking hesitantly, "Are you Jake Miller?" Then, as if summoning the performance of a lifetime, her eyes welled up with tears. "Jake, I'm your mother." The rhythmic thwack, thwack, thwack of my cleaver's splitting bone was my only reply. I had a job to do. A younger girl, standing next to her, pinched her nose in disgust. "God, it stinks in here. How could I have a brother like this? He's nothing compared to Caleb." "Who are you?" I asked, pointing the cleaver at her. "That's Chloe, our sister." A righteous male voice chimed in. From behind Chloe stepped a man who carried himself like he'd descended from Mount Olympus. This, I figured, had to be Caleb. He gently patted Chloe's head. "Don't be upset, Chloe. Jake's had to be self-reliant his whole life, not like us with tutors and loving parents. Once he's back home with us, we can teach him how to be a decent person." Chloe gazed at him with pure adoration, not sparing me a single glance. "Of course. I'll listen to you, Caleb. We'll teach him how to be a real person." I set down the cleaver, wiped the grease from my hands onto my apron, and looked at Caleb. I let out a short, unimpressed scoff. "And who are you supposed to be?" Caleb's brow furrowed in disapproval, his face a mask of pained disappointment. "I'm Caleb Davenport. What happened all those years ago was just an accident. How could you let yourself go like this? If you're truly unhappy and wanting to compensate you, I won't complain." The way he said it, you'd think I should be grateful. I shoved a hand truck into his grip. "Step right up. Don't miss your chance. Now's your opportunity to make it up to me. I've got 4 more half hogs in the walk-in freezer. Go haul them out for me." Chloe immediately shrieked. "Are you insane? Making Caleb haul pork? He's not like you." Caleb patted her hand reassuringly. "It's fine. It's the least I can do to help my little brother. You don't trust me to handle it. Then get to it," I said, pointing toward the back. "It's the freezer at the very end. Don't get lost." As Chloe went with Caleb to get the meat, Mrs. Davenport, my so-called mother, switched her maternal concern back on. "You're only 20. Why aren't you in college? Do you plan on being a butcher your whole life?" Her tone was thick with disappointment and reprimand, like a concerned mother seeing her son throw his life away. I picked up a boning knife and gave it a practice twirl. "Don't like school. I like butchering hogs. What's it to you? Looking at you, I bet you have no idea how much money there is in this business." "That's enough." Mr. Davenport, who had been perfectly invisible until now, passed his judgment. "It's not your fault you're so short-sighted. But who taught you to be so arrogant?" I shot back without missing a beat. "Yeah, who did teach me? It's not like I had money for fancy tutors." Just then, Caleb and Chloe stumbled back, holding each other up as they staggered. You'd have thought they just escaped a war zone. "Mom, Caleb's hurt. We need to get him to a hospital." Chloe was on the verge of tears as she tattled. A side of pork fell on Caleb's hand, trying to protect me. That's the hand of a photographer. Caleb's eyes were also red, but he put on a brave face. "I'm fine. I'm the one who failed to protect Chloe. Her dress is ruined with grease. We should get her a new one right away." I leaned in for a closer look. He was right. They'd better hurry. If they waited any longer, the faint redness on Caleb's fingertip might actually disappear. You have to know when to read the room. "All right, you all should get going. I'll pack up my stall and bring my kid over to the Davenport place later. Just leave a key for me." At the mention of that, a little boy who had been watching from the crowd ran out and leaned against my leg, tilting his head as he looked at the Davenports. Mrs. Davenport's face changed. "Kid, you have a child? Let me introduce you. This is Leo. He's 4. Mr. Davenport's face went from pale to purple. A complete embarrassment. I'm warning you, not every stray brat can just walk through the doors of the Davenport house. I shrugged. If you don't want to leave a key, just say so. In the end, it was Caleb who pulled out a $100 bill, taking on the role of the responsible older brother. "We have housekeepers who can let you in. It's not like the little hovels you're used to. Just pack up and take a cab over. 100's not enough. Make it 200. If Leo and I are moving in, we've got to pack our stuff. That's at least 2 Ubers. Or you could just lend me your luxury SUV." I eyed the Davenport's top-of-the-line Cadillac Escalade. The trunk space looked generous. Mr. Davenport was trembling with rage. "Fine, we'll take you home now. I want to see just how much junk you need to pack." I took my son's hand and glanced at the plush leather seats inside the SUV. Not enough seats. Who want to walk? It's only about 5 miles. Not far. I looked directly at Caleb. He couldn't handle a 100-pound side of pork, but surely he could walk 5 miles, right? Or has the standard for being a man dropped that low? Caleb's face went pale, the mask of the benevolent older brother cracking, but he held firm. I'll walk. Dad, Mom, you take Chloe and Jake and go on ahead. Without a second's hesitation, I helped my son into the back seat, buckled him in, and then offered a piece of friendly advice. If you get tired, you can always grab a divvy bike. The car finally pulled away, the atmosphere inside frozen solid. Only Leo was completely unfazed, whispering to me, "My mom's car is way bigger than this one." Chloe, who had been pouting ever since Caleb was forced to walk, let out an undisguised cold laugh. Soon, we arrived at my apartment complex. My building was old, located down a narrow alley the Escalade couldn't fit through. Mrs. Davenport and Chloe looked miserable as they navigated the cracked pavement in their high heels. The second I opened the door, their disdain was palpable. A dog kennel is bigger than this place. I let out a deep sigh. Yeah, well, I'm not a dog, so I can't live in a big house. Mrs. Davenport's face was grim. Where are your adoptive parents? I gave her a puzzled look. You don't know. They divorced a long time ago. Neither of them wanted me. They got into a huge fight about it on the way back from the courthouse, started grabbing for the steering wheel, and, well, that was that. They died. Mrs. Davenport was stunned speechless for a moment. Divorced? But they... I narrowed my eyes. You knew them. How could our two families know each other and still have a baby mix-up? She avoided my gaze, quickly denying it. I didn't know them. I just saw them a couple of times at the hospital. Why are you wasting so much time? Just pack a couple of outfits. We have everything at our house. You don't need to bring this junk, Chloe snapped, pinching her nose. I can't stand another second in this hellhole. Caleb, who had just arrived on a divvy bike, ignored the sweat dripping down his face and said thoughtfully, Chloe's right. These clothes are all out of style. You don't really need to pack them. When we get home, you can wear some of my things. Don't be a stranger, big brother. Big brother, I'm moving in. Aren't you planning on moving out? You should be the one to leave. Chloe was like a mother hen protecting her chick, while Caleb put on a wounded expression, shaking his head at her with a sad smile. It's only right for Jake to resent me. If it comes down to it, I can move out. It doesn't matter where we live. We'll always be a family. I rolled my eyes and went back to packing. Leo's toys alone filled 2 large boxes. Hey, mister, I want to compensate you. How about you help carry some of these boxes? Caleb, having caught his breath, didn't say a word and simply picked up the lightest box of toys. Chloe stood with her arms crossed, sneering at Leo. I can't imagine what kind of woman his mother is to have even looked at you. Well, she's not the type who looks down her nose at people, that's for sure. If you're so bored, why don't you hold Leo's hand for me? She was just a girl after all. I didn't actually expect her to help with the luggage. But Chloe, just like her brother, was a real saint. Faced with Leo's hopeful eyes, she turned on her heel without a word, grabbed the heaviest box, and stumbled out the door with it. Don't think I don't know what you're trying to do. You just want to bully Caleb. You think you can compete with him? Keep dreaming. If Chloe wanted to sacrifice herself for her brother, I was more than happy to let her. I knew exactly what kind of person Caleb was. The guy who paid to have my college admission stolen, destroying my chance at an education. How is he not a perfect match for Chloe? When we got back to the Davenport mansion, the housekeeper already had dinner on the table. Mr. Davenport walked in and immediately got on the phone. Cancel the personnel changes I scheduled, and hire some tutors to come to the house. The stricter, the better. Who cares about the board right now? You think a pig-slaughtering butcher is going to shut up those old geezers on the board? His son is already 4 years old. I'd have better luck hoping he gives me a few more grandsons. Mr. Davenport didn't hold back, making no effort to hide his contempt from me or Leo. I chuckled and shook my head, covering Leo's ears. Mr. Davenport had been facing skepticism from the board recently. He was determined to make Caleb his successor, but Caleb, who had to buy his way into college, had spent the last 2 years learning nothing but superficial skills. He was useless at everything and had infuriated the board. Then, at this critical juncture, someone leaked that he wasn't the real heir, and the board started questioning Mr. Davenport's competence as well. A man who can't even keep track of his own son. How can he run an entire company? If you're going to play the nepotism card, at least use the genuine article. That was the only reason the Davenports had grudgingly brought me home. I sat down at the dining table with Leo. Actually, I'm pretty eager to start my internship at the company. Every journey begins with a single step. The company will be mine eventually, so no matter how hard it is, I'll have to overcome it. Mr. Davenport snorted, losing his appetite. Chloe glared at me. Someone like you wants to compete with Caleb for the company? Caleb immediately put on a stern face, feigning a reprimand. Chloe apologized to Jake. He's Dad's biological son. It's his right to inherit the company. Even if he can't handle it, I'll be there to help him. Oh, Jake, I didn't mean you're not capable. Don't take it the wrong way. Yeah, no thanks. I'm afraid your help would do more harm than good. I silently roasted him while feeding Leo, then asked, since you know I'm the real Davenport son, when are you moving out? Jake, how can you talk like that? I will not let Caleb leave this house. I raised him for 20 years. I consider him my own son. We even took in that little bastard you brought with you. Why can't you be a little more generous? As Mrs. Davenport spoke, her eyes started to redden. I laughed coldly. So he's your son, and Leo is a little bastard? Does that make me the big bastard then? Mrs. Davenport was speechless. Caleb quickly tried to smooth things over. Mom, don't be angry. If Jake can't stand the sight of me, I'll move out. Even though my biological parents are gone, I can take care of myself. I smiled pleasantly. The Millers may be gone, but there's still the old guy next door, isn't there? My adoptive parents divorced because they found out I wasn't their biological son. They didn't initially consider a hospital mix-up. Instead, the revelation triggered the bombshell about my adoptive mother's affair with the man next door. Caleb's face grew wary. What are you talking about? I shrugged. Exactly what you think I'm talking about. Too bad he wasn't home today. But don't worry, before I left, I made sure to leave your new address with his wife. Maybe he'll stop by tomorrow to catch up. Catch up about what? I've never met him, Caleb denied, his voice suddenly loud. I casually crossed my legs. If you say so, no need to get so worked up. Anyone who didn't know better might think you have a guilty conscience. The old guy next door, Mr. Hemlock, showed up right on schedule. He burst in and started calling Caleb my boy, making Caleb scramble away from him. I don't know you. How can you not know me? I'm the one who helped you steal his college acceptance letter and his ID. That's how he broke my hand. He wiggled his fingers, which were indeed stiff. After my adoptive parents died, my grandmother moved in with me. We managed to get by on her pension and the money my parents left. Mr. Hemlock, after the whole affair blew up, knew I wasn't his son and treated me like any other neighbor. But after I graduated high school, he suddenly became incredibly friendly. I was wary of him, but he still managed to trick my grandmother into giving him my acceptance letter and all my documents while I was out working a summer job. The shock sent my grandmother into a severe decline. We spent every penny we had, but we couldn't save her. By the time I finished with her funeral, the deadline to register for classes had long passed. I had no choice but to give up on college and start butchering hogs for a living. Mr. Hemlock was shamelessly blunt. My boy, I did all that for you. He beat me so bad for it. Kept demanding to know who I sold the letter to. I nearly died, but I never sold you out. The least you could do is take care of me in my old age. I looked at Mrs. Davenport. Now you know. Are you still going to let him stay here? Mom, I didn't do it. I never asked him to do any of that, Caleb insisted, looking her straight in the eye. She nodded repeatedly. Mommy believes you. Jake Miller, I don't know what you're trying to pull, but I only trust Caleb. I raised him with my own hands. I know his character, but you... Mrs. Davenport trailed off, so I finished for her. But I've spent my life hustling with lowlifes to get by. I'm shameless and scrupulous, and I'll do whatever it takes. Right? She turned her head away. You know it yourself. Fine. I am unscrupulous. I came prepared. Luckily, after I beat up Mr. Hemlock back then, I planted a voice recorder in his apartment. I took out my phone and played the recording. Mr. Hemlock, my boy, I need another 20 grand. That little punk hits hard. He broke my hand for you. Caleb, you have the nerve to ask me for money. I told you I didn't need your help. I already had someone switch the school records. You just made things more complicated. Chloe snatched my phone, threw it on the ground, and stomped on it. So what if Caleb took your spot in college? Someone like you wouldn't have amounted to anything even if you did go. You didn't lose anything. Still talking tough? Looks like it's up to your big brother to teach you some manners. I raised my hand and slapped Chloe so hard she fell to the floor. Before I could react, Mrs. Davenport slapped me across the face. How dare you hit your sister? You disgusting creature. You're just like your father. Get out of this house. Now. Immediately. She stormed upstairs and started ransacking my room, ready to throw all my belongings out. Caleb finally allowed himself a triumphant smile. I did steal your college admission, and I've known for a long time I wasn't a real Davenport. But Mom knew about it from the very beginning. And didn't she still choose to raise me, to stand by my side? My face hardened. How would she have known? Because he smirked, a crazed look in his eyes. She's the one who swapped us in the first place. I said nothing. Even when you already know the truth, seeing your own birth mother's cold indifference firsthand still feels like a gut punch. Over the next few days, the Davenports were a united front, using every threat and bribe they could think of to drive me out. But I wasn't leaving until I saw them get what they deserved. I had leverage on Caleb, and they were terrified I'd leak it to the board, so they had to tolerate me. Then one day, Leo disappeared. I stormed into Caleb's studio to confront him. He was busy editing his photography. You're asking me where your son is? I'm not his babysitter. Ever since the truth came out, Caleb hadn't bothered pretending to be the nice older brother anymore. He never belonged in this house anyway. Don't you think the air feels fresher without him? I didn't have time to waste. I slapped him across the face. Either you tell me where Leo is, or I break your hand just like your real dad's, and then you tell me where Leo is. Caleb sneered. You barbarian! If you lay a hand on me, you'll never see that little bastard again. I slapped him again. A little late for that warning, don't you think? I grabbed a keyboard from his desk and brought it down on him. The skinny punk had no fight in him. He was wailing in seconds. Jake, are you crazy, Mom? Help me. I threw him to the floor, pressed my knee into his back, grabbed a fistful of his hair, and shoved a mouse into his mouth. Talk. Where is Leo? If you don't, I'm knocking out every single one of your teeth. Jake Miller, what are you doing? Mrs. Davenport was trembling with fury. She picked up the keyboard I dropped and swung it at my head. Let go of my son. You mongrel. The shattered plastic of the keyboard sliced across my forehead. Warm blood trickled down my face, dripping onto the floor in front of me. I touched the wound, and my hand came away red. Some family ties I realized just can't be forced. I stood up and snatched the broken keyboard from her. Where is Leo? If you don't tell me, I'm calling the police. You wouldn't dare, she hissed, glaring at me like I was her mortal enemy. Chloe, who had appeared at some point, screamed, He's locked in the doghouse in the backyard. The doghouse. I roared. You locked a child in a doghouse. Well, it's not our fault. Caleb's gallery opening is in a few days, and that little brat kept getting in the way. Even if you insist on squatting here, you could at least get rid of him, Chloe said, cradling Caleb and dabbing at his cuts while shooting me a look of disgust. Jake, Mom and Chloe are just very protective of me, Caleb said, slipping back into his good brother act. After my exhibition, I'll be sure to make it up to Leo. Let's see if your exhibition happens first. I spat the words and ran to the backyard to find Leo. The yard was overgrown with weeds, clearly neglected. From a dilapidated doghouse in the corner, I could hear muffled sobs. I ripped half the wooden planks off the structure and saw Leo lying on his side, his hands and feet bound tightly with rope and his mouth covered with duct tape. His face was streaked with tears. I frantically tore off the restraints and pulled him into my arms. I'm sorry. I won't let anyone hurt you again. That evening, when Mr. Davenport got home, I brought up the subject of Caleb moving out one last time. Mrs. Davenport was ice cold, acting as if I didn't exist. Mr. Davenport slammed his fork down, his face a thundercloud. What's all this fuss over such a trivial matter? His obsessive promotion of Caleb had led to a series of disastrous business decisions, leaving the company on the verge of bankruptcy. It desperately needed a new injection of capital. The only way he could save the company and his position on the board was to personally secure a major investment. Who his biological son was had become irrelevant. Mrs. Davenport made a charitable offer. I bought you a 2-bedroom condo in a good school district. It's more than enough for you and your son. For his sake, you should move out as soon as possible. I want to live in a Gold Coast mansion Leo mumbled, looking at his fingers. Chloe rolled her eyes. Don't we all? Who wouldn't want to be neighbors with the Sterlings, the richest family in Chicago? Caleb magnanimously chimed in. Jake, you should just go. If you leave now, you at least get a free condo. If you drag this out, things could get ugly. I held on my phone. It didn't just have that one audio recording anymore. Now it also had video of the Davenports' constant taunts toward me and Leo, including proof of them tying him up in the doghouse. Either Caleb moves out, or I'll let the internet have a field day with this. Mr. Davenport's face went dark. You can't even keep one person in line in your own home. Caleb lost his composure. Jake, you knew the family was in talks with Sterling Industries, didn't you? That's why you're blackmailing us. I shrugged. So what if I did? All I'm asking is for you to move. Caleb pressed his lips together, then looked at Mr. Davenport with a look of pained sacrifice. Dad, I've always considered you my real family, but for the good of the company, I have to be unfilial. As soon as Jake can tolerate my presence again, I promise I'll move back. Mr. Davenport gave a stiff nod. Mrs. Davenport and Chloe glared at me with pure hatred. I took Leo's hand and headed for our room. See? He's sacrificing himself. Since he's such a beautiful and kind-hearted person, I wish him a successful gallery opening and a wonderful new life. The next morning, Caleb moved into the Davenport's vacation home, which was conveniently closer to the gallery where his exhibition was being held. Even with the company on the brink of collapse, Mrs. Davenport was more determined than ever to make his photography exhibition a spectacular event. 3 days later, I stood at the entrance to the gallery. Mrs. Davenport was already there, dressed to the nines. The moment she saw me, her eyes turned to ice. She lowered her voice and threatened, "If you and that bastard dare to cause a scene today, I will make sure you leave with nothing." I covered Leo's ears. But the person who made sure I started with nothing was you, wasn't it, Mrs. Davenport? She shot me a glare and clicked away in her heels, as if breathing the same air as me was nauseating. Caleb's exhibition was packed with industry bigwigs and media. The Davenports had clearly paid off a slew of influencers to post glowing pre-reviews. It was obvious that since he had failed at business, they were rebranding him as an artist to boost his social standing. As I entered the main hall, the first thing I saw was a giant, wall-size photograph. It was me, holding a meat cleaver in my butcher shop. The photo was shot in dark, moody tones. My features had been subtly distorted, and with a blood-red filter applied to the cleaver, I looked like some kind of crazed, night-stalking butcher. Are you satisfied, little brother? Don't you think it's a very realistic portrait? Caleb's voice purred in my ear. He was wearing an exquisite, custom-tailored suit, a smug smile on his face. He turned to address the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to my brother. He is the subject of my masterpiece. My brother was lost to us for many years, forced to bear the burden of raising a son at such a young age. But he is hard-working and kind, and he finally persevered until the day our family found him. To commemorate this most important moment in his life, I took this photograph to cherish forever. The room erupted in applause. Mr. Davenport, you are truly a magnanimous brother. I wouldn't dare step foot in such a filthy environment. The sacrifices you make for your art, Mr. Davenport, just looking at all that blood makes me want to vomit. Doesn't it almost feel like you can smell the stench from here? Caleb smiled. Little brother, we don't often get the chance to visit places like that. Why don't you share some of your experiences with everyone? Tell us some interesting stories about butchering hogs. His eyes were venomous, glinting with a nasty, rat-like cunning. I slowly rolled up my sleeves, walked up to Caleb, and slapped him so hard across the face that he went flying. Experience? You butcher enough hogs, and it just becomes second nature. Caleb cried out as he crashed into Chloe, nearly taking her down with him. Chloe shrieked. What the hell do you think you're doing? He asked me to share, so I shared. I shrugged, then turned to the crowd. Since Caleb is hosting this exhibition, I couldn't come empty-handed. I brought a gift. It's also a photography collection. Chloe scoffed. With your taste, did you just snap a few selfies and call it art? I smiled knowingly and pulled a thick stack of photos from my bag. I'd already sent Leo to wait for me by the entrance, given the sensitive nature of the content. Caleb seemed to sense something was wrong. He struggled to his feet and growled. I'm warning you, don't start anything. I cheerfully waved over the swarm of reporters. Come on, get a good shot. If you can't, don't worry, I've scanned copies. Text me later, and I'll send you the whole set. As I passed out the photos, gasps of shock filled the room, followed by a frantic storm of camera flashes. I cleared my throat and explained as I handed them out. Not only did the Davenports welcome me home, but they also cleared out Caleb's old private storage room for me to use. I found these tucked away in a hidden compartment in a drawer. Caleb's face went white. He tried to snatch them back, but it was too late. Not that he could have overpowered me anyway. He was humiliated and furious, his face twisted in a desperate rage. He wanted to lunge at me, but the reporters had him surrounded. Mr. Davenport, when did you and Miss Davenport begin your relationship? Were these photos also taken to commemorate an important moment? Aren't you brother and sister? Do your parents know about this? Chloe had no idea what was happening, so I kindly handed her the last few photos. Don't worry, I've kept the originals in a safe place. The moment she saw the pictures, her face drained of all color. Her fingers trembled so badly she couldn't hold on to them. Every photo was an artistic, nude portrait she and Caleb had taken of each other. The kind Jack drew of Rose in Titanic. There were solo shots, couple shots, different locations, different poses, the whole collection. The composition was deliberate, the quality crystal clear. Each one was signed and dated by both of them, with the earliest going back 3 years. You two are so close, I remarked sincerely. Chloe burst into tears, pushed through the crowd, and ran. I pursed my lips. As I turned, a sharp slap stung my cheek. I looked down to see a face twisted with hate. Mrs. Davenport gripped my arm, her voice shrill. Everything that happened today is a vicious lie made up by Jake Miller for revenge. He resents Caleb for taking his identity. He's been targeting him ever since he came to our home, using despicable means to drive him out. Today, he photoshopped these pictures to ruin Caleb's exhibition. He's nothing but a lowlife thug. Caleb played his part perfectly, putting on the face of a man wrongly accused. Mrs. Davenport continued. No matter how we tried to make it up to him, he refused. He's used his gutter rat ways. He already has a son with an unknown mother at his age. He wants everyone to be as shameless as he is. The reporters, instantly hooked by the unknown mother gossip, swarmed me like leeches. Mr. Miller, is it true you have a son? We understand you're only 20 years old. Is what Mrs. Davenport said true? Is the child's mother? I sighed and rubbed my forehead. She was my birth mother, after all. I hadn't planned on completely destroying her, but she had to go and dig her own grave by dragging Leo into this. Sure enough, a powerful female voice cut through the chaos. I'm a child's mother. I shrank back into the crowd, peeking through a gap to see a formidable woman stride into the gallery, holding Leo on one hip as if he weighed nothing. The entire room went into an uproar. It's Victoria Sterling, the CEO who built Sterling Industries into the most powerful company in Chicago by the time she was 30. Does that mean Mr. Miller is Ms. Sterling's? There's a bit of an age gap. I didn't know she was into younger guys. As the whispers grew, I tried to make myself smaller. Not every man and woman standing together are a couple. She walked toward me, Leo waving frantically from her hip. Jake, my mom's here. No one can bully us anymore. Miss Sterling stopped in front of Mrs. Davenport, looking down at her with a severe expression. Mrs. Davenport, my son took a liking to Jake and insisted on having a sleepover at his place for a few days. How did that story become Jake has a son? Mrs. Davenport was stunned silent by Leo's repeated shouts of my name. Miss Sterling didn't wait for an answer. The security detail I assigned to protect my son has already given me a full report on how the Davenports took care of him. I believe our investment evaluation of your company can be considered concluded. It was him. Jake Miller said that. That child was his son. Mr. Davenport stammered desperately. I poked my head out from behind the crowd and shook it. Nope. I just said he was my kid. You're the one who jumped to conclusions. Mr. Davenport's face turned ashen. He couldn't believe that all his work was being ruined by the very bastard he despised. He wanted to salvage the situation, but was at a complete loss for words. But I thought his expression could get a little worse. I cleared my throat and looked at Mrs. Davenport. Mrs. Davenport, do you have any more questions about Leo's mother? If not, then it's my turn. Who is my biological father? Mrs. Davenport's eyes shot daggers at me, filled with a regret so intense it was clear she wished she'd smothered me in my cradle. Go on, tell them. When you call me a mongrel, you weren't planning on keeping it a secret anymore, were you? Today seems like the perfect opportunity. I put extra emphasis on the word mongrel. A wave of murmurs swept through the crowd. What kind of mother would use such a word for her own son? Seeing that Mrs. Davenport didn't deny it, they knew they were in for a real story. The media outlets the Davenports had paid a fortune to invite were practically vibrating with excitement. Many of them started live streaming on the spot. One of the bolder reporters shoved a microphone in Mr. Davenport's face. Mr. Davenport, do you have any comment? Did you know Mr. Miller was not your biological son when you brought him into your home? Mr. Davenport's ashen face turned a sickly green. Nonsense. Mrs. Davenport seethed through clenched teeth. Jake Miller, there should be a limit to your lies. I wagged my finger. I never lie, and I have proof. I pulled out a paternity test and placed it squarely in front of her. I even thoughtfully provided a magnifying glass, just to make sure she could see it clearly. 20 years ago, your husband, Mr. Davenport, was obsessed with his work and neglected you. You were lonely and bored, so you found a handsome college kid to pass the time. You only started to panic when you got pregnant. Mr. Davenport, thinking the child was his, was thrilled about his firstborn. You couldn't get an abortion, and you weren't sure who the father was, terrified that he would find out about your affair. So, as soon as I was born, you secretly ran a paternity test. The results were devastating. Your only option was to bribe a nurse and have me and Caleb swapped. That way, even if Mr. Davenport later found out Caleb wasn't his biological son, you could still cover your tracks. Mrs. Davenport, anything you'd like to add? Because I also happen to have that 20-year-old paternity test right here. I carefully produced another yellow document. It had taken a lot of effort to find this. That's all a pack of lies. Is it? We can always do another round of tests with you and your husband. Then we'll know for sure. Why keep fighting it? Losing her mind with rage, Mrs. Davenport lunged at me, ready to attack. I grabbed her wrists and held them tight. Getting this worked up already? My real dad hasn't even made his entrance yet. Right on cue, a man's voice called out. You told me the baby died at birth. You used my academic future to threaten me, telling me never to contact you again. It was all because you were married the whole time. Ben Carter. Mrs. Davenport froze, her eyes wide with shock. The man looked to be in his late 30s, handsome and distinguished. It wasn't hard to imagine what a heartthrob he must have been in his youth. He walked over to stand beside Ms. Sterling and Leo, his expression one of pure disgust as he looked at Mrs. Davenport. Allow me to introduce you to my wife and my son. When he turned to me, his face shifted to one of sorrowful regret. Forgive me, son, for taking so long to find you. If I had known you were alive, I never would have let you suffer so much. I put on a touching display of emotion, though inside, I felt nothing. Back when he was chosen by Mrs. Davenport, he'd certainly enjoyed a taste of the high life. She may have hidden her marriage, but a man that smart must have figured it out. He was just playing along to get some startup capital out of her. We faked a tearful father-son reunion, cameras flashing all around us. But most of the reporters were now chasing after the humiliated and disgraced Davenports as they fled the gallery. On the way home, I sat in the back with Leo, covering his ears before I spoke in a lazy drawl. Nice performance. No wonder you charmed my mother back in the day. Ben Carter, in the driver's seat, sighed. I already explained. I really didn't know she was married. Come on, you knew she was having a baby, right? You could have checked the hospital to see if I was really dead. I'm not saying I won't acknowledge you. You don't have to make excuses. From the passenger seat, Ms. Sterling said calmly, whether you acknowledge him is up to you. But you can't delay your MBA courses any longer. With your abilities, you should have no problem managing the company while attending classes. As if I had a choice. My dad and I were both Victoria Sterling's star employees. The Davenport family's scandal spread like wildfire. Anyone with an internet connection had a front row seat to the real-time implosion. The public ate it up like popcorn at a movie. The Davenports failed to secure new investment, and their company quickly entered bankruptcy proceedings. Nearly all their properties were auctioned off. The family of four moved into the two-bedroom condo they had originally bought for me. It was a tight squeeze, but since Caleb and Chloe were together now, At least they didn't have to worry. And if they ever had kids, they'd be in a great school district. The only problem was that none of the four had a job. It was hard to say if they'd make it that long. After acknowledging my biological father, I was given a Spartan schedule plan down to the minute. I moved into the Gold Coast mansion and was busy from dawn till dusk. I only had one day off a month to even think about the Davenports. Lounging in the mansion's luxurious sunroom, I texted Caleb my secret guide, the Butcher King's 18 Ultimate Hog-Slaying Techniques. I added a solemn note. This is my personal, top-secret knowledge, not the kind of fluff I shared at your gallery show. It covers everything from selecting the right hog and making the first cut to attracting customers. But Caleb didn't appreciate my kindness. He blocked me, perhaps seeing how my father had taken a shortcut in his youth and later hit the jackpot with Miss Sterling. Caleb decided to follow his example. But he wasn't as handsome as my dad, nor as skilled. I soon heard he got beat up by a cuckolded husband and ended up in the hospital. Mrs. Davenport was the only one who still contacted me, though it was always to borrow money, promising that when Mr. Davenport made his comeback, she'd pay me back double. After all, her biological son, me, was now the stepson of Victoria Sterling. Mr. Davenport wouldn't dare get rid of his burdensome wife now, but a comeback would require at least $1 million startup fund. So, I had to tell her with deep regret, I'm just a butcher who only knows how to slaughter hogs. After hanging up, I stretched. My lunch break was over. As I walked out of my bedroom, I ran into Leo, who wore the exact same miserable expression as me. We exchanged a synchronized sigh, then trudged off to our respective lessons. Seriously, Miss Sterling, Leo was so desperate to escape that he followed me home to my tiny, rundown apartment. Are you sure you don't need to reflect on your parenting style, just a little? Today's lesson was being taught by my father, Ben Carter. He seemed to notice my despair and frown. I just signed contracts with 3 new material suppliers last month, and your mother opened 5 new branch offices. We don't want to push you and Leo so hard, but... He paused, a look of confusion on his face. Don't you love to learn? When we found you, you were preparing to retake your SATs and go back to school, weren't you? I shot him a weary look. My idea of college was showing up on campus, playing basketball with friends, eating and living in a dorm, and maybe meeting some pretty girls. Not an endless series of one-on-one private tutoring sessions. Realization dawned on his face. Oh, you want to attend classes on campus? No problem. I'll adjust your schedule right away. We'll move all the private tutoring to the evenings, and I'll have my assistant pick you up directly from campus for company meetings. He smiled, looking incredibly pleased. I was worried you wouldn't be able to handle it all, which is why I requested exemptions from your general education requirements. But if you want to go, we'll add them all back in. Young people have so much energy. With your drive, I'll have no worries about leaving the company to you and Leo in the future. Yeah, I can see why Victoria Sterling fell for him. He's one of a kind. I resigned myself and picked up my textbook. After all, I had a hell of a lot to inherit.